Okay. That's good stuff. I consider myself to be a romantic. I enjoy candlelit dinners and snuggling up next to the fireplace while I read Shakespearean prose to my lover. There's nothing quite like staring longingly into the eyes of your paramour. Like a lot of people, I tend to tear up at weddings because there's just something sweet about seeing two people willingly share their love with their friends and family, and also Uncle Daryl. But realistically, he's only there because if you didn't invite him, you'd never hear the end of it from your mother. It's nice to be included in these kinds of events because the couple is typically not just professing their love to each other, but also to their guests. Calm down, Daryl, okay? Weddings, however, have an inherent set of rules, a social contract, if you will. If you're in the wedding party and are asked to make a toast, maybe keep it short and keep that story about you and the groom getting absolutely blasted in Vegas to yourself. Remember, inside jokes aren't funny to everyone, and airing your grievances about the bride or groom while you're holding a microphone standing in a spotlight in front of 200 plus people maybe isn't the time. Basically, don't be fucking weird. Also, can we be clear about something? It's a toast, not a speech. Don't rock up to the mic with 8 pages detailing your personal relationship with the bride and the groom and ramble for 15 minutes. People want to dance and drink your free booze. I hope it's free. It better be an open bar. People don't want to hear an oral history of the time you took mescaline and went to a donkey show in Tijuana. I mean, maybe Uncle Daryl does? Especially considering that there is no more mixed company than at a wedding. You've got parents, grandparents, work friends, psycho friends, Uncle Daryl. You have to appeal to a wide range of attitudes and ideals and sensibilities. Mima and Peepaw might take offense to you sharing explicit details of their granddaughter's sexual habits in front of hundreds of people. Plus, they're old and scared of large crowds. And if you've got a diverse group of friends, you've got to be even more gentle with the elderly guests who refer to them as ethnic. Surprisingly, Uncle Daryl isn't racist, he just stands too close to the bridesmaids at the bar. For some people, seeing another person be emotional in public triggers their fight or flight response or gives them the ick, which really just means that that person needs therapy.
I do get the really big ick, like even if guys get like emotional to the point where like they might cry, and you know they're about to cry. Ooh. I'm just like, oh, don't do it.
There's a pretty fine line of appropriate behavior even for the wedding party. If you're the bride, for example, there seems to be this pressure to not turn into a blubbering, hyperventilating mess, and for the groom to act like a stoic, locomoting mass of flesh and bone. These are not my opinions, by the way. These just seem to be some pressures that are put on the respective genders by society. Women shouldn't be hysterical, and men should shove their feelings just straight down to hell. As romantic and fun as weddings can be, there are a lot of sociological landmines that everyone is trying to avoid. As a guest, it can sometimes feel like you're interviewing for a job that he set up with his parents at their family business, but it's not actually a job, it's just an internship, and you don't have any intention of actually accepting it, but you also don't want to be rude, so you go and you smile and give a firm handshake, all while professing your love and admiration for the CEO's son or daughter, but not in a creepy way. Now, if you're a normal human person, you understand a lot of these social norms and go with it, because at the end of the day, it's not your wedding, you're just a guest. For example, I'm not a religious person, and the whole God-fearing church thing ain't for me. I accept that it can be helpful for some people, and that's great. But I always kind of start to clench up whenever someone starts quoting the Bible at a wedding, or anywhere.
What does porn do? What does lust do? It kills you. Porn, very specifically, kills you. How?
However, I'm not gonna stand up and make a scene in the middle of someone's vows and shout, "Who invited him?" What's with God being a creep, huh? What's he doing here? If you're a maniac, you might just end up in the news for pulling a Donald Duck during the reception or sticking an M80 in the cake. I made those up, but honestly, they're not far off from some of the psychopathic wedding behavior that I've seen in the news recently. Like when ice hockey player Adam Gaudette decided hey, it'd be fun to do a little burlesque show during the reception by performing a lap dance where he kicked his brand new wife square in the face. Listen, I don't know much about hockey, I live in America. But I assume you have to be in decent physical shape in order to participate at a professional level, so I'm a little disappointed in his form here. The problem seems to stem from just how tight his trousers are. If you're gonna do a comedic, gender-swapped lap dance at your wedding, make sure you wear appropriate attire, or really go for it and just strip down to your underwear. The lack of commitment to the bit is honestly really disappointing. As I've gotten older and become more incapable of physical activity, I've begun to subscribe to the rule that if there's even the slightest chance that an act will result in injury, death, or worse, embarrassment, it's just not worth it. Also, what is it about people doing lap dances at a wedding? It's a wedding, not a strip club with all-you-can-eat tilapia. Or that thing where the groom shoves his head up the bride's dress like a fucking bloodhound to remove the garter. Stop. Or when they make the best man cross-dress to prank the groom. Now, remember how I said earlier, it's probably a good idea to keep more of the lurid details of a relationship to yourself at a wedding? Well, this groom, I don't know what he was thinking, but he decided to tell everyone at the ceremony, including the children that he made with his fiance, that his wife needs to empty his balls regularly.
Only two things are required to keep me happy: keep my belly full and my balls empty. Though you're amazing at half of it, we really need to get you some cooking lessons.
Men are simple. Make us a sandwich and drain our balls and we'll love you forever. This shit is so bizarre and embarrassing because if you lack the shame and self-awareness to do something like this, you're completely ignorant to how people are laughing, but not for the reasons you think. Well, with the exception of his mom. She seemed less than thrilled.
Being that I am his mom, I will deal with him later. He is grounded.
To call this classless is an understatement, and I don't really like to use that word very often, but talking about your sperm factory and how your new wife is gonna gobble it up while wearing a nice three-piece suit among your closest peers is vulgar beyond what even the horniest 13-year-old could come up with. And I assume this guy is not, two 13-year-olds, dressed in a suit. I assume it's a full-grown man who pays taxes.
Anything you want to say to your future bride?
I hope we have a lot of sex. A lot.
It was clear from the video from before the ceremony that he was just waiting to get up there to say the kinkier stuff and outline his requirements, which, yikes. My wife is required to empty my balls regularly. It's in the prenup. The wife did later make a video response to the reactions from the internet about his vows, saying that one of the reasons she fell in love with him was his sense of humor.
His vows showed a piece of his personality, which is the humor side. I've seen people say we have a toxic relationship, we aren't gonna last, and this and that, and honestly, you can say what you want. The haters are gonna hate.
A sense of humor implies the ability to form a joke, and I don't see what the punchline was in talking about how your wife needs to drain your balls at your wedding. It's just gross. I shouldn't have to say this, but your vows are not a great place to test out the 5 minutes of stand-up you're working out. I understand the want to add some levity by way of funny anecdotes and harmless comedic bits into your speech or your vows, but man, what a risk. He did get some laughs, so maybe his side of the aisle is just like 50 Uncle Darryls who are into crass edgelord comedy. And Jim Brewer.
I will knock your fucking teeth down your fucking throat!
Talking about your future wife as if their sole job is to be some jizz depository is so much more disgusting than if he had made a joke about how he wished she was just barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. Speaking of shit 13-year-olds do that only they think is funny, we have to stop doing this. The groom literally stalks her into a corner and assaults her. This groom looked like he was gonna flip the table. He's got the body language of a drunk guy outside of a bar who's picking a fight with a street sign. Here's another angle. Crazy. Sometimes it's hard to tell if these grooms hate their wives or sweet cake, as you can see in this video of the groom who just straight up pile drives his. The look of shock on some of the brides' faces in these videos as their lizard-brained husbands tear these cakes apart is just so sad. Even the groom looks somewhat surprised after fisting his own cake. He looks like a kid at the beach who dispassionately stepped on someone's sandcastle and just learned what regret feels like. These two get in a physical grappling match. This douche goes even further by rubbing cake all over his bride's hair and very expensive makeup and adds a little sprinkle just for good measure. The worst part is these motherfuckers are running away like a kid on the playground who just pants someone and know that they seriously fucked up. I swear, I bet these guys go home and tell their friends, it was just a joke, but now I'm in the doghouse because my wife has no sense of humor. It's rude and disrespectful, and the joy some of these guys get out of embarrassing a person who, I assume, they plan to spend the rest of their life with is just weird. Like, they all have a serious case of schadenfreude. Schadenfreude.
Got ourselves a piece of cake, a little...
She should have punched him just full power. There are countless videos like this, and I don't know how this became a trend guys think is appropriate or tradition. It's not tradition, it's assault and battery. Some of these guys don't even look like they want to be here, which is a running theme. I don't know what's worse, physically assaulting your bride-to-be or being completely apathetic to promising your love and devotion till death do you part. I mean, it's physically assaulting someone. What could he possibly be looking at? His stock portfolio? His shitcoin? Is he playing Clash of Clans? Babe, hang on, I gotta check my shitcoin stocks real quick. Have you seen this video of the goats that freeze when you startle them? Whoa, oh, I just lost all my money. Oh, my shitcoin. Maybe he's just confirming the honeymoon reservation. He could be looking up a WikiHow on how to increase his wife's life insurance policy without them noticing. I don't know. It's clearly more important than paying attention to the person you just promised to spend the rest of your life with, though. He's gotta play Clash of Clans. This video is not sponsored. Other grooms show their disinterest in reading their nuptials by just getting real comfortable. If you're gonna wear jorts on your own wedding, you might as well say fuck it and pair it with a tuxedo t-shirt, you coward. Commit to the bit, but also to your wife. Sometimes the groom loves his wife, but just hates the guests. As one groom said, his pregnant sister-in-law ruined the wedding by not holding her baby in until after the ceremony. What? It's just like holding a pee in, right? I don't get the big deal. Wedding shenanigans don't just stop at food fights and disinterested fiancés. Disney adults ruin weddings all the time by getting officiated by Goofy. Dude, I would never attend a Disney wedding, but if for some reason I was forced to and had to walk by a crowd of strangers just trying to get the Splash Mountain, I would throw myself on Jack Sparrow's sword. Cool, let's get married at Disney where it stinks like child piss and sewage because it's a tourist trap that sees over 50,000 people a day who all have to shit at least once while they're there. Real romantic. This is the equivalent of getting married on like a cruise ship or one of those filthy marquee sign graveyards. Actually, that would be a pretty sick venue. At least with the cruise ship, you can fling yourself into the Pacific to end your suffering. From what I can tell, it's mostly men who get caught on video doing deplorable acts. The brides seem to just get annoyed at barrel placement at the reception.
That's supposed to be an acrylic table, kind of like barrels up here.
Or are passive aggressive about how their videographer canceled because he broke up with one of her friends.
Everybody better be getting pictures because my videographer canceled. Bryn. I'm
sorry.
I broke up now right here. My bad.
That one is so fucking funny to me. Come on, Bryn, don't you know how to keep a man happy?
Keep my belly full and my balls empty.
Can we all agree to chill out at weddings? No more planting your fiance's face into cake and sniffing around for a garter belt, and for the love of God, don't invite Uncle Daryl. That is, of course, unless you're doing a Vegas shotgun wedding. He seems like he'd be pretty fun in Vegas. To me, weddings can sometimes feel kind of like a scam, like Diamonds or Valentine's Day or the speed limit. Weddings, for much of history, were more or less a legal contract between the groom and the bride's father, who basically sold her off as property. So things have gotten better for the bride over the years, but not by much based on how often their fiancés throw a fastball cake pitch at them. By the Elizabethan era, dowries and wedding gifts became common, as well as pre-wedding preparations, wedding parties, exchanging rings, and having a reception. By colonial times, marriage licenses and wedding invitations became common, and the bride wearing white became a tradition during the Victorian era. For a time in the 40s, there were lots of what you might call shotgun weddings, as men were being enlisted. Many of these weddings were humble, DIY ceremonies performed at home. The wedding industry only became highly commodified post-World War II with the inclusion of wedding planners and increased demand of ceremonial tailoring, catering, music, and wedding-specific magazines. The post-war era saw an economic boom among Americans who could afford nice things from the influx of these commercial brands. I found an essay titled "The Ideologies of I Do, Commodification, Consumption, and Identity in the Wedding Industry" that details how, during this time, wedding media was able to convince brides that the correct choice from myriad brands will result in a wedding that is unique, distinctive, and perfect, which is still alive today in the wedding industrial complex. And it's why a dress costs $5,000 and people still believe you need to save up 3 months' salary for a ring. Weddings can be overblown, stressful nightmares even without the groom kicking the bride directly in the face, and they really don't need to be. What's so interesting about these incidents is that it seems to be mostly straight men acting out some abusive power fantasies and playing it off as a prank in order to gaslight the bride. Straight men have a tendency to feel resentment when a woman is in the spotlight and getting more attention than them. Just look at any review for a female-led superhero movie. But embarrassing the bride-to-be by using the very expensive cake that you both paid for as a Sesame Street puppet, or tackling her through a wall because no one is paying attention to you, is also embarrassing. Honestly, it's pretty beta of you. Just throw a party and in the middle of it announce to everyone, "Hey, we got married," to avoid the possible embarrassment of getting slammed through a wedding cake or shitting yourself in your wedding dress right before the ceremony. That's the video. Thanks so much for watching. I know it's kind of a stretch between releases. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for all the new subscribers. I love you. That's not gonna form an unhealthy parasocial relationship, is it? Please like, share, and subscribe. 1 like is 1 wedding cake topper that I will eat. Comment below outro catchphrases because I don't know how to end these ever. So, bye.